offense.
All right, Ian Rappaport of NFL Network dropped the bombshell yesterday, breaking news that his sources are telling him that Dak Prescott is expected to play on his current contract for 2024. I mean, he's going to play the last year on his deal, and they are not expected to reach any type of agreement on an extension. And I told you guys on Monday, like I said, I was feeling like it was a reality now. Based on all my research, I told you guys on Monday my rant. I said it feels like it's a reality that Dak Prescott could indeed actually end up playing the last year on his contract, which is crazy for a guy coming off his best season, second team All Pro, second in the MVP voting. But this confirms it that it is indeed more than a reality. Clarence Hill of the Fort Worth Star Telegram asked Jerry Jones about the report, and he said, quote, Dak, is he talking about here in this quote, he is willing to do everything he can to help us win. And so we are where we are. We have our contract locked and loaded for this year. We can see as we move along how we are thinking, inclusive of everybody, including Dak. We'll see what we do. I don't have anything to report today, is what he said. And then it was reported by Michael Gelkin. Also, Nick Harris reported, per the team, Dak Prescott and the Cowboys have had extension discussions, but it is not a pressurized situation at this point. The door remains open for a deal to get done this offseason, but there is no urgency as of now to get that deal done. And Ian Rappaport in his piece called it, he said the Cowboys and Prescott now have a mutual understanding, mutual understanding, and know that there is no indication that a deal is coming anytime soon. Jerry Jones essentially says we are where we are when it comes to Dak Prescott. So it seems like everybody's talking about how weird this offseason was. Everybody's belief that the Cowboys leaving Mike McCarthy as a lame duck coach, making Mike Zimmer, or at least signing Mike Zimmer to a 1-year deal, fifth-year option with Micah Parsons, no extension there. CeeDee Lamb, no extension yet with CeeDee Lamb. It would seem that the Cowboys have put the entire organization in a contract year, and now this confirms it. That includes one Dak Prescott. It is a hell of a way for Jerry Jones to define all in, and I will give him credit now. We've been mocking Jerry Jones, saying Jerry Jones is not all in, guys. Because he's not spending money in free agency. He's not putting his money where his mouth is. He's got to be adding players and pieces to this roster. And Jerry Jones kept saying, no, I'm all in. It's just, my version of all in. I'll admit, this version of all in, Patrick, way more of a gamble than the all in that we were all thinking about. This is all in when you're basically saying, hey, it is a show me year for everybody. Prove it to me, and I'll pay y'all the money. But if y'all don't prove it to me, I'm willing to blow this whole damn thing up. And yeah, it seems to me that Jerry Jones is willing to blow this whole damn thing up if this Cowboys organization or Dak Prescott, Mike McCarthy, if they don't get him to at least an NFC title game next season.
Yeah, I think we all kind of thought he was going to say, I'm going to push all in with a big stack of chips. And this is, I'm pushing all these chips in. And it seems as if he's pushing all in like he's at the end of his hand. Like he has to go all in. This felt like an all in out of desperation as opposed to an all in of, guys, we just haven't tried hard enough. This feels like, I'm all in of, I don't have any other options. This is my only option left. Everything else we've sat around and talked in rooms, it doesn't get us any closer. So the last hope I have is complete desperation, and the desperation of making everybody else be on a contract here.
Yeah, you're right. And yes, you're right. It's almost you basically proliferating desperation throughout the entire organization. Sense of urgency everywhere. Everybody's job is on the line. Everybody has to eat what they kill at this point.
Yeah.
And he's not paying anybody until they prove it. And you know what? This is a conversation even about Micah. There's some people that said, go look at the Cowboys' biggest games that they play, their playoff games, the big games they play during the season, their barometer games, and that Micah usually fades in those big games. He has his best games in and this is some way somebody put it, and I thought it was interesting. They say when the Cowboys win, basically Michael Parsons is an elite player. But when they lose, he's not an elite player. He should still be elite when they lose.
Yes.
Like Aaron Donald. or like Chris Jones, I guess. When his team loses, you should still see the Micah impact, but you don't see the Micah impact. And I think that's also part of this with Jerry for Micah. He's like, nah, 5th-year option. We're gonna pick that up. We'll negotiate with you, but we want to see it. And like I said, I see these both sides. I don't agree with both sides, but I see both sides. My only question for the Cowboys would be, you must plan for the worst. Hope is not a strategy. You must assume that Dak Prescott will end up leaving.
Yeah.
All right. So that is the hypothetical you have to solve. You have to figure out. All right, he's gone. He's gone. Let's say he's gone. And you know what? That means Mike McCarthy's gone too. Then what are the next steps for the Cowboys? You figure that out. At least have a plan going forward if you're going to have this type of gambling, kind of gambling kind of mindset. If you're going to be this kind of riverboat gambler, right? Like I said, you got to gamble a little bit to get what you want, right? To achieve what you want. But this is a major one. So just have a plan going forward. The Cowboys have drafted the fewest amount of quarterbacks in the NFL since 1999. And that's the way they operate. They don't draft a lot of quarterbacks. So if you are going to move on from Dak, you need to make sure that you start drafting QBs. Are you going to draft the QB this year? Hell, I'm not opposed to it, but that's been an unhealthy organizational habit for the Cowboys for a long time. And the truth is, it's coming back to haunt them. It's coming back to haunt them right now. The fact that they have not drafted a lot of quarterbacks, or the fewest in the NFL over that time span. They don't have a lot of options here, and they have not tried to upgrade over Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott I always say Dak Prescott was Viagra. He was a happy accident. I always say Viagra was meant to treat like hypertension. It was meant to treat like cardiac issues, blood flow. Then they found out happy accident was, oh man, actually, you know what it does? It helps guys who have trouble with erectile dysfunction, who can't perform. And it's like, you know what? That is actually where the moneymaker is. And Dak Prescott was that too. They wanted Connor Cook. They wanted Paxton Lynch. They stumbled upon a happy accident, Dak Prescott.
Yeah.
So and by the way, same thing with Tony Romo. This is the luckiest team in the NFL, arguably in NFL history, when it comes to franchise quarterbacks. They Forrest Gumped their way into Tony Romo, an undrafted free agent who became a franchise quarterback, which has only happened like twice. Warren Moon and Kurt Warner. And then they did it again with Dak Prescott because he was third string behind Kellen Moore and behind Tony Romo, who was fragile. So the point is, they've been really lucky at QB. And now I'm scared that the Cowboys they're gonna depend on that same luck going forward in the post Dak Prescott era, if indeed this comes to fruition.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that Trey Lance right now is that one guy that you're gonna sit and say, well, we traded for Trey Lance, so we did our due diligence. Like, that's not really like what this feels like to me is a bad analogy, but that, if a parent has their kids that stay in the house too long and they're trying to get their kids motivated to move out of the house, and instead of really trying to get them to move out of the house and give them plans and help them get a job or whatever else you got to do, they just sell the house. They say, well, now, guys, we're selling the house at the end of the year. So either you help find a new place and we all find a place to live, or we're all homeless. And that's where the Cowboys are right now, is it's one thing or the other.
That's scary, man. That's scary to operate that way. I'm with you on that. You're right. It does seem basically there's no in between. It's either we're going to win or compete for a championship, or everybody's homeless. I'm kicking
we're kicking everybody out, and we don't have a team anymore, and we got to go field a new team. We got to figure out what we're doing too, because it's not just we kick Dak out and then we move on to our next quarterback, because as of right now, the next quarterback was a guy who couldn't beat out Brock Purdy, was a guy who that was supposed to be, this is what happened to Jimmy Garoppolo, was that Jimmy Garoppolo was supposed to be replaced by Trey Lance, and it didn't work.
Mm-mm. Yep. And then what the Cowboys and what the 49ers do, they drafted more quarterbacks.
Yes.
Because that's what if you keep drafting quarterbacks, it'll give you more options. Because the truth is, and I've said this, nobody knows what the hell they're doing at quarterback. So in that case, you keep drafting them, and then sooner or later you will hit. Trust me, Bill Belichick didn't know that he was going to hit on Tom Brady in the 6th round. Once they hit him, they had Drew Bledsoe signed to $100 million deal. They didn't know they were going to hit on him at the time. He ends up being the guy. And Bill Belichick, smart. And this is why I like Bill Belichick. He's humble enough to know what he doesn't know. And that's why he kept drafting quarterbacks behind Tom Brady. There were other reasons, but there's a reason he drafted Rohan Davey, and he's drafted Kevin O'Connell and Cliff Kingsbury behind him. Number one, he knows, hey, man, I got to keep drafting quarterbacks. I might find the next Tom Brady. And he was also trying to push Tom Brady. And maybe this is Jerry Jones trying to push Dak. Man, Dak had his best year when he was essentially playing for a contract. Everybody knows across sports, guys have their best seasons in contract years. And essentially, the whole damn Cowboys organization is in a contract year. Maybe Jerry's saying psychologically, like the Packers did with Aaron Rodgers, drafting Jordan Love, brought off that dog in him, and the Patriots kept doing it with Tom Brady, drafting QBs, brought out that dog in him. You can psychologically motivate your quarterback in different ways, and I think maybe this is a way to try to motivate Dak into being to give you that big Dak energy that you need.
Which I get, and that's great. You want to motivate Dak, but to motivate Dak by possibly losing Dak.
Yes,
seems
exactly.
like a crazy way to. Well, we got the best out of him, and now he's gone. And I get if you're a Cowboys fan and you hate Dak Prescott and you want to move on, that's great. But I just look at the Vikings right now, and sure they could get a winner in the draft, but they could draft a quarterback in the draft this year who's never going to be a starter in the NFL. They have their quarterback right now is Sam Darnold. There's and you can tell me all day long I'd rather have Sam Darnold for $5 million or $10 million than I'd rather have Dak for 60. But at the end of the day, if Sam Darnold throws 7 interceptions a game, you'd rather have Dak for 60.
You'd rather have Dak. No, they're gonna miss Dak, man. They're gonna if Dak's gone, and trust me, franchise quarterbacks are not easy to come by. I think they take them for granted because there's a great quote from, I know we're close to it, but Chris Rock. He talks about why women end up like hating their husbands and why they end up being so hard on them and complaining about them all the time. And he said the real reason that your wife is unhappy with you and criticizing you every day and complaining and always on your butt, he says, because you're not her first choice.
Yep.
And essentially for Cowboys fans, the reason they've always been displeased with Dak is because Dak was never the prince that was promised. He was never the first choice. Romo, same thing. That's why they would never, they're always split, Romosexuals and Romophobes, because they were like, man, he was never the guy. When you draft a quarterback high and you essentially basically appoint them to be the guy, the face of the franchise, there are a lot of expectations, but the fans also, they basically also become fans of that player, and they decide, he's the face of the franchise. And the face of the franchise is for the fans, so they can buy the jerseys, so they have a connection to the team. And for the Cowboys, they've never really had that guy who was expected to be the face of the franchise. It was always a surprise, and Cowboys fans felt like they settled with Dak and they settled with Romo, and they never got the elite quarterback that they've always wanted. And the quarterback, the Cowboys don't operate that way. Troy Aikman was the last one you got like that. That was it.
Yeah.
And it worked out really well, but that was the last one. All right, we got to know there are a lot of layers to this, so we'll come back and talk about it. We come back on the other side, though. We'll get into At the Turn with Charlie Wilson and pro golfer Omar Uresti. We'll talk a little golf on the other side right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis, coming right back